So this is the Flappy Bird game I built using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In this video, I'm going to scroll through the entire code and explain exactly how it works, from the layout to the game logic, so by the end you'll fully understand how this game is built. Alright, let's start from the top. At the very beginning, I define the HTML structure of the page. I set the document type to HTML and specify the language as English so the browser knows how to interpret the content. Inside the head section, I first set the character encoding so all characters display correctly. Then I add viewport settings, which are very important because they make the game responsive and properly scaled on mobile devices. After that, I set the title of the page to Flappy Bird, which is what appears in the Browser tab. Next, I include Tailwind CSS using a CDN link, which helps me style elements quickly without writing too much custom CSS. Now I move into the CSS section. Here I import a retro pixel-style font called Press Start 2P, which gives the game a classic arcade look. Then I apply global styles, setting box sizing to border box so spacing behaves correctly, and enabling touch actions so mobile tapping works smoothly. Now I style the body of the page, I set the font, remove scrolling using overflow hidden, and apply a blue gradient background to create a sky-like environment. I also center everything using Flexbox so the game stays perfectly in the middle of the screen. Next is the game container. This is the main box that holds the entire game. I make it responsive so it works on both desktop and mobile, and I add rounded corners and a shadow to make it look like a real game screen. Inside this container is the canvas element. This is extremely important because the entire game, the bird, pipes, coins, everything, is drawn inside this canvas using JavaScript. Now I move into the UI overlays. These are screens that appear on top of the game. First is the Start screen, which shows the title and instructions like press space or tap to flap. Then there is the Game Over screen, which appears when the player loses and shows the final score, coins, and high score. Now I move into the button styling. I make the buttons look more interactive with a gold color and a press-down animation so they feel like real game buttons. Then I set up the score display at the top. This shows the current score, the high score, and the coin counter, all positioned on top of the game screen. Now I scroll into the JavaScript section where the actual game logic begins. First, I grab the canvas and get its drawing context, which allows me to draw graphics inside it. Then I define base width and height so everything stays consistent across different screen sizes. After that, I select all the UI elements like buttons and screens so I can control when they appear or disappear. Now I set up the main game variables. I track the game state, score, coins, frame count, and high score, which is stored in local storage so it doesn't reset when you refresh the page. Now I define the bird object, which is the player character. It has position, velocity, gravity, and jump strength. The draw function renders the bird on the canvas. The update function applies gravity and updates movement every frame. If the bird hits the ground, the game ends. The flap function gives the bird upward movement when the player taps or presses space. Now I move to the game loop, which is the heart of the entire game. This loop runs continuously using request animation frame. It clears the screen, redraws everything, updates movement, and renders the new frame. This is what creates smooth animation like a real game engine. Next is the Start Game function. This resets all variables, hides the menus, and starts the game loop. Then I have the Game Over function. This stops the game, shows the Game Over screen, and updates the final score and coins. It also checks if the player achieved a new high score and saves it. Finally, I add the controls. I support keyboard input, mouse clicks, and touch input so the game works on both desktop and mobile devices. And at the very end, I start the game loop so everything begins running immediately. So that's the full breakdown of the Flappy Bird game. If you understood this, you now know how a complete browser game works using just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And from here, you can easily upgrade this into something even bigger like adding sound effects, animations, or more game mechanics.